Good afternoon. I want to thank as well the organizers and especially Master and Rafi for, and I must add the members of my group for a stimulating, challenging, and enjoyable 2 weeks. I really had a good time and I learned a lot, so thank you for that. I'll be reading an excerpt from my book, recently released, entitled Oh God. In this excerpt, Nikki, hired as manager on a planned development project in Antigua for the area known as Black Man's Valley, leads a pilgrimage to a slave dungeon, which is the site for the development project and a source of controversy as it is an area used by farmers and has some significant value to the people of the community as well, for reasons that will become clear in this section. Tanti and Sadie had agreed that Nikki should MC the proceedings, so she did, pitching her voice to carry over the bodies to those still further down the hill. I want to thank you all for coming, she began haltingly, for Tanti and many others from the area. What you're standing on is holy ground. She looked across at Tanti, who nodded encouragingly. Before Nikki was a motley crew, curious expats mixed in with homegrown Rastafarians, academics mixed in with area farmers, greyheads and shiny bumps, and the odd politician. It was not only a larger but a more diverse crowd than she had anticipated. A part of her dared hope as she glimpsed some of the Blackman Ridges Project's staunchest opponents in the crowd that this could be the bridge between the warring factions. That was the goal, anyway. She tried to get Cam to come, but he scoffed at the very idea. Make mosquito yam me up all night? He'd laughed. For what? I don't hold all that ancestors crap. Black people hang on to slavery too much, if you ask me. Is that keeping them down? I'm a practical man. I live in today. Anybody who know me, know that. For me to go up there would be a bold-faced lie, and I never lie. The night's program consisted of a drum call and dub poetry. At midnight, the dawning of Emancipation Day, August Monday, when Antigua's enslaved Africans got their first taste of freedom back in 1834, plastic cups were passed around and libations sipped and poured out ritualistically in honor of these survivors and the many more non-survivors. Tanti had insisted on that and mixed up the beverage herself. Everyone got a chance to enter the dungeon in pairs and threes. Some emerged quickly and unscathed. Others were visibly moved by the experience of being stooped and confined in the small space. As Sadie began her oral history of the dungeon, of slaves imprisoned for infractions imagined or real, a reporter from one of the local stations, ignoring the mean look she shot him, stuck a recorder in her face. Many died here, sick with their own fear as it come through their skin and full up the air around them, till they were breathing their own stink, Sadie said. Not a lot of new air could get in around the heavy door they had barred the entrance. Only tiny cracks leave back for insects to crawl through and torment them to the last. As for them that survived, there was madness or relief, relief that sucked at their fight and spirit. Nikki found herself seduced by Sadie's words and her voice, as she spoke with previously unheard serenity and authority. A noise cut through the night, a bone-deep, belly-full moan. It was Tanti, swaying, eyes tightly shut. Nikki reached an arm toward her, then hesitated. Tanti's moan cut through her. Not like a knife, like waves curling beautifully in and into her, relentlessly. Nikki sighed and even cried a little, the long moments overwhelming her, filling her with both sadness and joy. She felt like she was being filled and emptied out at the same time, like she'd eaten too much and yet not enough. The scent of roasting cashews, which Tanti had insisted on, perfumed the night air. Nikki had been concerned about fire spreading, but then Audrey had unexpectedly donated a couple of coal pots which allowed them to contain the fire. And as the scent now wafted out, the moaning swelled, continuing to fill the gaps. A chorus for Sadie's chronicle, which ended with a roll call of Antiguan martyrs and heroes, from King Court to V.C. Bird. Here and there were tears, as Sadie's voice, hoarse now, faded. The drums once again took over, taking on the timbre of Tanti's unabashed moaning. The drum talk took them into the 4-day morning, as the Antiguans call those hours just before daybreak. It was then, in that in-between time, that Nikki came back to herself as if from a blissful dream. She caught snatches of it, of being inside the dungeon, of not being afraid. Those shadows and light, ancestral spirits danced across the jewel-like stones along the cave wall. Tanti's voice reminding her that she was from their blood and they wouldn't do her no harm. As even memory faded, Nikki opened her eyes to the sight of pale light now spreading across the sky, and discovered that she was leaning against Belle's shoulder as her sister sat still as a rock.